In the bustling city of London, England, where the streets are lost between skyscrapers and a few gloomy alleys, dwelt a man forgotten by luck, whose name was only an already distant echo for himself, William. He had become an inseparable part of the urban landscape, an element unnoticed by most passers-by who hurried past his lonely melodies being echoed for many years by the strings of the same old guitar. His days were a tedious repetition of the same hopeless choreography. He would wake up with the sun rising, find a place on the busy corner, and there he would sit down with his tired guitar, starting his performance for an anonymous, hurried audience. With each note he fingered, William nurtured the hope of a few coins that were sometimes tossed with disdain or even ignored by passers-by. These meager coins, however, were his fragile connection to his next meal, the only tangible certainty amid the uncertainty that permeated every moment of his existence. But that, contrary to what many might think, made him more happy than unhappy. It was as if in the coins thrown almost at random, he felt inside him that he was performing his greatest Soho. Since childhood, influenced by his grandfather, a great pianist, William was interested in music, and soon demonstrated skill and a certain talent with the instrument. Even in such small hands, he was able to entertain a circle of adults who were enthusiastic when they saw that little child sing and play with such ease. As he grew up and became a boy, the dream and the guitar remained with him. He was a young man full of dreams and passion for music. Growing up in a small town in England, in all his free time he spent hours on end playing his guitar, dreaming of the day when his songs would be heard by crowds. He had talent that was undeniable, and his family happily encouraged him to pursue his dream. However, even with all his dedication and talent for music, things did not flow so simple, and after a serious financial crisis that plagued England in the mid-70s, William saw his dream become a little more distant. But he did not stop dreaming, however. Already at the age of 25, he met a beautiful girl with whom he fell in love. It did not take long for them to engage in a courtship and to get engaged. They soon got married and the couple's first daughter came. What would be a source of joy ended up becoming something that seemed to take him away from music a little. Since time was short, he had to get a job in the office, and in the few hours that he had left to dedicate to his true passion, he did it with mastery, playing for his daughter, Beatrice, a song that he himself had composed, but had never given a name, because he thought that names boxed too much artistic creation. But time passed, and William was now a man of advanced age, and in every trace of his face the relentless watch had left its indelible mark. Each wrinkle was a furrow in his story, a silent narrative of the countless challenges he had faced over the many years. The abrupt disruption of his past life, the estrangement from family and friends and all other loved ones. Each setback was a stone in the winding path he had traveled. But William had not allowed himself to succumb to the weight of these adversities. Instead, they had forged his resilience, transforming him into a survivor of the vicissitudes of urban life. Each challenge was a silent testimony to his unwavering determination, proof that despite the falls, he still rose, ready to face whatever fate had in store for him. However, even in the face of the emotional and physical scars that marked his journey, William found refuge in his music. His guitar wasn't just an instrument. It was an extension of his own soul, a portal to his inner world. With each note he extracted from the spent strings, he deposited not only his musical abilities, but also his dreams, his regrets, his joys, and his sorrows. Music was not just an activity for him. It was an escape valve, a way to transcend the limitations of reality and get lost in a universe of melody and harmony. Sitting on the cold sidewalk in central London, William immersed himself in his art with quiet devotion, as if the world around him disappeared when his calloused fingers touched the worn strings of his guitar. With a dexterity acquired over many decades of practice and experience, he glided through the notes with an almost unearthly precision, as if each chord were an extension of his own essence. Every note was more than just sound. It was an expression of his soul, a melody that flowed like a river of emotions, transporting him to a place where sadness mixed with hope and loneliness dissolved in music. A place that perhaps not even he himself was able to find anymore. There, in that small universe created by the sound of his guitar, William found peace and meaning, as if each chord was an answer to the unanswered questions that haunted his mind. And so, while the world continued its frantic dance around him, William remained immersed in his music, an oasis of calm amid the storm of urban life. As people walked past him, their hurried footsteps echoing on the concrete sidewalk, William stood there, almost like a statue among the incessant flow of the crowd. For most, he was just another homeless man, an anonymous and forgotten face in the urban landscape. His worn guitar and lonely figure blended into the city scenery, lost in the human tide that took its course without stopping for long. However, for William, the indifference of others was only a distant echo in his lonely journey. He did not seek recognition or compassion in the passing looks of passers-by. Instead, he found comfort in his music, in his art that transcended the barriers of loneliness and abandonment. His guitar was his voice, his innermost expression of beauty and meaning, a dim light that illuminated his soul hungry for human connection. And so, as the world moved on, indifferent around him, William found solace in the certainty that his music was his true companion on the journey through the cold and impersonal streets of London. However, even if William resigned himself to the loneliness that seemed to be his constant companion, there were times when the feeling of isolation became overwhelming. On the frigid winter nights, when the biting wind insinuated itself between the gaps of the streets and the darkness enveloped the city like a gloomy cloak, William felt the weight of his loneliness with an overwhelming intensity. It was in these dark hours that he found himself most vulnerable, lost in a sea of thoughts and memories that relentlessly haunted him. His past life, his wife and daughter whom he had abandoned in search of a fruitless dream. However, it was also in these moments of helplessness that he clung even more to his music, letting it envelop him like a warm embrace amid the merciless darkness that surrounded him, feeling that this was his only company. Each note was a ray of light in his darkness, a fleeting reminder that despite the vastness of the void around him, his music was a constant, comforting companion, a beacon of hope in the darkness of the night. It was already with his daughter already a child, and he in his 30s that a proposal arose. At that time, William worked practically all day locked in an accounting office. It didn't have nearly what a romantic and artistic soul like his needed. Little by little the work seemed to undermine his hope that one day he would have his art recognized by all. It now seemed just a flash from a very distant past, at a time when dreams seemed legitimate. One afternoon, while ringing at the door of the house for his daughter, a strange car stopped. William looked suspiciously at the well-dressed man who got out of that car and praised his music. Despite thanking him, he was not used to strangers praising his music. However, something in Oscar's tone of voice makes him pause for a moment. How can I help you? William asked. While waiting for the answer, he continued playing his guitar softly. I liked your music and the way you play. I would like to make you an irrefutable offer. Irreconcilable proposal? What kind of proposal, and who are you? My name is Oscar Smith. I am a music producer from London, from the Record News label. I believe you have what we are looking for. William replied cautiously, Thank you for the compliment. But what would a music entrepreneur like you be doing here, interested in talking to a musician like me? Oscar smiles, noticing William's distrust. He sits down on a nearby bench and answers sincerely, I understand your hesitation, William. But the truth is that I heard his music from afar and was impressed. I have a good ear for promising talent, and I believe you have potential. William raises an eyebrow, puzzled. He didn't expect someone like Oscar to be interested in him at that point in his life. However, a small spark of hope begins to ignite in his heart. What exactly are you suggesting? William asks, cautiously. Oscar leans forward, eyes shining with enthusiasm. I'm suggesting an opportunity, William. A chance for you to show your talent to the world. I can help you get gigs in bigger places, record your songs, and reach a wider audience. But, of course, all this only if you're interested. William ponders Oscar's words for a moment, but the idea of having a chance to achieve his dreams is tempting. He looks at his daughter, who is smiling at him proudly as he continues to play and reflect. Finally, William takes a deep breath and extends his hand to Oscar. Well, we can talk, he replies, with determination in his voice. We can schedule some day and place. Oscar smiles and shakes William's hand firmly. Great, here's my count, I said, handing him a card with gold edges. William, together, we can do great things. I look forward to working with you. Oscar then gets back into his car and drives off, leaving a hopeful William sitting on the pavement playing to his young daughter. Later that same day, at dusk, William enters the house with a mix of nervousness and excitement. He cannot hide the smile on his face and the fact that he was already dreaming away. Your wife is finishing preparing dinner. He slowly approaches and puts the guitar aside, drawing her attention. Love, he begins, trying to control the anxiety in his voice. Something unexpected happened today while I was playing on the street. He tells about meeting Oscar, the manager of the music business, and how he expressed interest in working with William. The expression of William's wife oscillates between skepticism and curiosity. She knows how much he's dreamed about it, But she's also aware that nothing is ever that easy, and she doesn't want to see him disappointed or let down. However, the idea of an opportunity intrigues her. "And what do you think of that, dear?" William asks, eager to hear your opinion. His wife sighs before saying anything. "William, you know I've always supported your dreams, even when the going got tough. But I can't say I'm not worried." William nods, fully understanding his wife's concerns. "I understand, dear. I'm also afraid of being disappointed. But Oscar seems genuine, and he said we can talk. I believe I should at least talk and see what his interests are." William's wife looks into his eyes for a moment, seeing determination mixed with hope. She sighs one more time before smiling and saying, "Well, talking doesn't cost anything, right? Listen to what he has to say. But promise me you'll be careful." William smiles in relief, feeling grateful for his wife's support. "I promise, honey. Let's give this a try together." That night, William could barely sleep from such excitement. His dreams were filled with images of himself on stage, playing to an ecstatic crowd. He finds himself sharing his music with the world, his passion finally being recognized and celebrated. Waking up the next morning, right after breakfast, before going to work, William does not waste time. He picks up the phone and sets up a meeting with Oscar, eager to discuss the details of the proposal and begin drawing up a plan for his future in music. "Great," Oscar answers. "We can meet today." During the day at work, William's mind became extremely restless, leading him far away from there, making him extremely anxious about the time of the meeting. Anxiety mixed with hope throbs in his chest, and he finds himself smiling at the prospect of what's to come. By the end of the afternoon, when the time for the meeting finally comes, William is ready. He gets into his old car and sets off to find Oscar and take the next step toward his dreams. The coffee shop where they met was bustling that late afternoon, with the aroma of fresh coffee hovering in the air. William entered nervously, but soon spotted Oscar at a table in the corner, waiting for him. He walks over and greets Oscar with a handshake. "Oscar, it's good to see you," William says, extending his hand in greeting. "William," Oscar replies, rising to shake William's hand enthusiastically. "Please sit down. Would you like something to drink?" William settles into his chair and smiles. "Coffee, please." Oscar nods to the waiter and orders 2 coffees. As soon as the waiter walks away, Oscar looks at William with an excited smile. "So how are you feeling today? Excited to talk about the future?" William nods, feeling a mixture of nervousness and anticipation. "Yes, I am quite excited. It was hard to sleep so excited," he confessed. Oscar laughs, looking genuinely happy at William's excitement. "That's great to hear. I truly believe we can do amazing things together, William." Hearing him play yesterday confirmed my suspicions about his talent. William smiles modestly, grateful for the compliment. "Thank you, Oscar. I really hope so." The waiter returns with the coffees, and they begin to discuss the details. Oscar explains his vision for William's career, highlighting gig opportunities, possible collaborations, and plans to record music. "I have contact with a London label. I believe that the first step is to start with some small recordings, and I will use the contacts I have in this industry. Who knows, we will be able to open shows of great stars. I'm not guaranteeing you this, but it's a possibility. Everything will depend on how things flow." As the conversation progresses, William begins to feel more confident. He realizes that there is a sincerity in Oscar's words and a genuine interest in helping him succeed. After an hour of lively conversation, they finally reach a preliminary agreement. William walks out of the coffee shop with a contract in hand and a beaming smile on his face. He knows the road ahead will be challenging, but it's also full of promise and possibility. With Oscar by his side, he finally feels that he is on the right track to fulfill his dream of music. William returns home with the contract in hand, feeling light as a feather, but at the same time with a weight of responsibility and expectation. His wife greets him with a curious smile as he walks through the door. "And so, how was the meeting with Oscar?" she asks, noticing the excited expression on William's face. William sits down next to her and puts the contract on the table. "It was amazing," he replies, letting out a sigh of excitement. "Oscar has big plans for my career. He believes in me, Sarah. I think I finally found someone I can trust." Sarah looks at the contract with interest, her eyes scanning the lines of text. "And what does that mean for us?" she asks, with a mixture of hope and caution in her voice. William smiles and puts his hand over Sarah's. "It means we can finally start building a future together, a future where my music can support our family. I know it's risky, but I think it's worth a try." Sarah looks into William's eyes, seeing the determination and passion reflected there. She shakes his hand affectionately. "I trust you, William. If you believe this is right for us, then I'm with you." With a beaming smile, William signs the contract and picks up the phone to call Oscar. "Let's do it," he says, with a mixture of enthusiasm and gratitude in his voice. As he talks to Oscar on the phone, Sarah looks to the future with renewed hope. She knows the road ahead will be challenging, but with love, trust, and determination, they can overcome any obstacle that comes their way. The next day, William asks for the bills from his old job, and only a week later he travels with Oscar to London, leaving behind his loving family and set off in search of success in the big city, where he believed that his talent would take him far, that his music would win hearts, and that he would become a famous musician and would be very well paid for all this. But reality does not always follow dreams. William encountered difficulties as soon as he arrived in the big city. Opportunities proved scarcer than he had imagined, and the music market was cruel and competitive. He fought bravely, playing in bars and nightclubs, but success always seemed to slip through his fingers. A year had already passed since he had moved to London. Things had not flowed as he imagined. Communication with his family was scarce, and the money that came in was almost all sent to his wife and daughter. He was going through terrible difficulties, but he did not want in any way to give up on it, or say that it was not flowing well. And just like a hard blow, he discovered that Oscar was nothing more than a freeloader, interested only in exploiting William's talent for his own benefit. Oscar dumped him. The contract was terminated without prejudice to Oscar. On the contrary, for a whole year worked William owed him a lot of money. And that's how William found himself with absolutely nothing. No money, no family, and no prospects. The shame of returning home a failure consumed him cruelly, burning him inside, which made him keep trying to get by on his own. He even played in many bars and small concert halls, but it seemed that everything fell apart more and more. Without being able to afford the rent of the small house where he lived, he was evicted. All the torment made him start drinking to try to forget the difficulties, and then without an option he had to go live on the streets, where at least he could still play his old guitar. Every note that came out of the strings was a mixture of sadness, regret, and lost hope. But despite all the adversities, the flame of music never went out inside William. He continued to play, seeking comfort in the notes that flowed from his guitar. And even if the world forgot him, he still kept alive the hope that one day his music would be heard again. His family never heard from William again. Beatrice grew up not knowing more about her father, and Sarah never knew what had happened to her husband, praying every night for him to return, but passed away less than a decade after William's disappearance. Sarah, a teenager, was then raised by her grandparents. The family became only a blur in William's mind, though he cried every night for the choices he had made and for never returning. But he knew that at that time guilt and shame consumed him with enormous voracity. One afternoon, while playing in a busy London square, that same mournful ballad that echoed the wails of his soul, his nameless song, William saw a little girl approach. Her steps were hesitant, as if she were fighting some internal battle. His eyes, however, radiated a sincere curiosity as he observed the homeless man and his shabby guitar. "Can I sit here?" she asked, her soft voice cutting through the melancholy-laden air. William looked at her, surprised by the interruption. He nodded with a shy nod, inviting her to share his space on the sidewalk. The young woman sat next to him, keeping a respectful distance, but her presence brought a feeling of warmth to William's heart. "You play beautiful," she commented, smiling gently. William thanked her with a nod, but did not say a single word. He was not used to receiving compliments, let alone such friendly interactions, and watching children reminded him of his daughter, whom he had abandoned, and it hurt his soul. However, something in the young woman's presence intrigued him, as if there was an inexplicable connection between them, even if they had never met before. "What's the name of the song you're playing?" she asked, breaking the comfortable silence that had settled between them. William hesitated for a moment, as if reliving old and painful memories before replying, "It's a composition of mine. It has no name." The young woman nodded, respecting William's privacy. She tilted her head, listening intently to every note he plucked from the guitar. It was as if the music told a silent story, a narrative of sorrow and hope intertwined. When William finally ended the song, he asked, "Did you like it?" "Yes, it's beautiful," replied the little girl, her eyes shining with admiration. "My grandfather also played the guitar. He was amazing. Whenever he played, everyone in our house stopped to listen." William is delighted with the little girl's story. "That's wonderful. Your grandfather must have been a talented musician." "Aham, but I didn't know him. Mom who told me," the little girl continues, her voice full of fascination. "But he passed away before I could meet him." William feels a pinch in his heart upon hearing this. "I'm so sorry for your loss, but I'm sure your grandfather is looking at you with pride whenever you listen to or play music." The little girl smiles, looking grateful for William's comforting words. "Thank you. Music always makes me feel like he's around." William continued to gently play his guitar, sharing his music with the little girl next to him. As the notes fill the air, he knows that music is a powerful form of connection, capable of transcending even the barriers of time and distance. "I used to play this one for my daughter when she was about your size." In this way, William delves into his memories as he plucks the strings of the guitar again, playing and singing a soft and familiar melody that he used to sing to his daughter when she was just a child. Each note is charged with love and longing, evoking memories of simpler and happier times. While William plays, completely oblivious to the rest of the world, the little girl's mother approaches, drawn by the music. Her eyes widen as she recognizes the melody, and she stops abruptly beside William. Where did you learn this song?" she murmurs, unable to contain the emotion in her voice. William looks up, surprised to see the woman standing before him. Their eyes meet, and he tells her. "This song?" he whispers, his voice choked with emotion. "I wrote this song for my daughter. That's a long time coming." "And where is she now?" asks the woman. I don't know," he answers capriciously. I made a lot of mistakes. I abandoned and lost my family." Holding back the crying, the woman nods, her eyes shining with tears wanting to fall. "Dad," she mumbles. "It's me, your daughter. I can't believe it's you." William abruptly interrupts the song. Eyes wide and mouth open, he finally looks at the woman inside his eyes and then begins to cry. "Beatrice, forgive me. I failed." Beatrice picks him up and hugs him, a mixture of emotions overflowing between them. The little girl looks at both of them curiously, not fully understanding the depth of that moment. "You are my grandfather?" she asks, her voice small and uncertain. "What happened, Dad? Why you disappeared?" Beatrice interrupts. "I was scared," he confesses. "Fear and shame. I was deceived and lost all the little I had. I am not worthy daughter. I could never forgive myself for any of that. And your mother? Where is it? Her. She died. She could not stand her disappearance. He became extremely ill. I'm so sorry. I destroyed the lives of all of you. For a long time I hated him. I hoped he really died. I felt like that was the only way I could forgive you. But who am I to forgive or not forgive someone?" The little girl is speechless, processing the startling revelation. She looks from William to her mother, eyes full of wonder and joy. "Mom, do you know each other?" she asks, her eyes shining with curiosity. Beatrice smiles and wipes a furtive tear from her face. "Yes, we know each other. He's your grandfather, my father." The little girl smiles broadly, feeling happy to be part of that exciting family reunion. She reaches out and hugs William tightly, feeling grateful to have discovered this special bond. "Beatrice, I'm so sorry. I don't know what I can do to reward her, if anything." _touch Dad. Play one more time. Let the music speak for you. As the music continues to echo softly around them, there, on that very sidewalk, as life continues its overwhelming existence, they discover that the power of music is able to bring together even the most distant hearts, and that it is able to bring closer and find the souls that have moved away. Beatrice forgave her father, William. She had just moved to London after her marriage ended. She was a music producer, and in this way, her father was able to fulfill his desire, recording some songs, and returned to play in small concert halls and bars, leaving the street and living with his daughter and granddaughter. That for him was great, more than he had ever dreamed. Thank you very much to those who have supported the channel financially through the link in the comment pinned. This helps me to bring more and more stories to you. And don't forget to like and also subscribe to continue receiving the new stories.